Quantum AI calculated something NASA wouldn't dare to address. 22 unexplained anomalies are stacked as independent probability events. The worst part? They are all happening on one object, and there's zero chance of a natural origin. Subscribe now because this one blows your mind. Flyby. As you are reading this, the interstellar object 3I Atlas is passing through the single most important point in its entire solar system journey on March 16, 2026. The flyby happened at that exact moment. Harvard unexplained anomalies on this object over 8 months of intensive observation. The most unsettling of them all became mathematically locked that morning. 3 jets on the nucleus have maintained exact geometric spacing through perihelion, through intense solar heating, and through the complete rotational cycle. They were firing last month as the object was passing Jupiter, and those jets positioned this object at a location that was so precise that it defies any conventional explanation. Naturally, when researchers submitted Freedom of Information Act requests to the CIA to talk about the records on the interstellar comet, the response came back with a language that was only reserved for active intelligence operations. According to the CIA, they could neither confirm nor deny the existence of records responsive to the request of researchers. That's not a response we give about a comet because it's a simple yes or no. We already know that the 3I Atlas is the 3rd confirmed interstellar object detected passing through our solar system. What we need to understand is why this one is different from the first 2. This could be a bizarre acceleration with no visible coma, no chemical data, and just a hyperbolic trajectory, along with the mysteries. Borisov behaved exactly like a comet, looked like a comet, and left behind no surprises. The Oumuamua gave us a lot of questions too. Then we had the 3I Atlas, which is something else entirely. It is the largest, fastest, and most chemically alien object that has ever been recorded entering our solar system, and we had 8 months with the most advanced astronomical instrument humanity has ever built pointed directly towards it. The data is already in, and it does not fit any natural explanations. The eerie chemistry. GM's Webb Space Telescope ran the final dedicated observation session on the 3I Atlas back in January 2026. Results were even presented at the American Astronomical Society meeting in February 2026. The deuterium to hydrogen ratio came back 3 times higher than we have in Earth's ocean, which is just insane. There is a formation fingerprint that points to the cold outer region of the stellar system, but a stellar system is nothing like ours. The carbon isotope measurement also fell outside the solar system range entirely, and the nitrogen ratio of this anomaly was more than twice that of every solar system comet that has ever been measured. Every single measurement pointed to the same conclusion that the object did not form a star, like our sun. It came from something much older that is fundamentally different in chemistry. This could be an ancient, low metallicity star, potentially billions of years older than our solar system as well. Then came the nickel finding that couldn't be explained either way, James, but we detected nickel, and here's where things get genuinely interesting. This was nickel without iron in every single natural process that produces nickel. Iron is definitely in the game. They are chemically inseparable under natural stellar and planetary formation conditions. The nuclear physics that is involved in element creation doesn't allow one without the other. The only known exception is the industrial carbonyl pathway, which is a chemical process humanity developed for manufacturing purified nickel. It does not even occur in our space naturally, and it has never been detected in any comet ever in the entire history of science. Yet here it is in the coma of an object from another star system in quantities that the published paper cannot even explain using the natural mechanism. Multiple researchers have also tried addressing this finding, and every attempt to explain this either requires conditions that don't exist in comets or even destroys processes that have never been observed in nature. Geometry. But wait, there's more. What made researchers start running even the most emergency calculations wasn't just the chemistry. It was what Hubble captured on December 27, 2025. The image was processed through rotational gradient filters in order to isolate the jet structure near the nucleus. 3 distinct jets appeared. These were separated from each other by exactly 120 degrees, forming a perfect symmetric triangle around the nucleus. Natural cometary jets only form where volatile ice happens to exist around the surface. They are also the products of random geological distribution. They shift as heating patterns change and rotation changes, which face towards the sun. The geometry moves with the comet as the conditions change. This is what every comet in the observational record does. The 3 jets maintain their 120-degree geometry throughout and their path, and throughout the most intense solar heating this object would have ever experienced, They held their exact position through the entire rotation cycle of the nucleus. The geometry did not shift or change. It was all stable. Researchers searched through the entire Hubble archive and every comet ever measured in the decade in detail over decades of observation. They found basically no historical event for this configuration, not even a single example of 3 jets maintaining perfect geometric spacing through the changing heat and rotation. When you see symmetric, mechanically stable propulsion geometry that survives even the most intense thermal conditions while still being intact, you're not looking at random ice pockets, but this is something else. But next up is the trajectory that defies coincidence. But before we cover that, please subscribe to our channel because this one is about to blow your mind. The trajectory. You see, Jupiter has something called a Hill radius, which is the exact gravitational boundary where a released object would neither fall into Jupiter nor escape gravity entirely. It will settle in, be it permanently captured and rolling around it. The Hill radius of Jupiter is around 53,500,200 kilometers from the planet's center, and at the closest approach, the 3I Atlas passes at 53,455,000 kilometers from Jupiter. The difference between where this object passes and the exact capture boundary of the largest planet in our solar system is just 57 kilometers out of 53 million. The Loeb calculated the probability of it being coincidental, and the number came out to be just 0.00004, which is 0.04 of 1%. That's not a loose estimate, this is a calculated probability. Here is what makes this even more unsettling. Precise positioning was set at launch billions of years ago from another star system. It was adjusted during its journey, which is even more eerie. The non-gravitational acceleration from those 3 jets is maintaining a perfect 120-degree spacing, and it pushes the 3I Atlas into a flyby geometry that lands at the exact capture boundary of Jupiter. The jets were the ones that shaped the trajectory, and it ends here today at the Hill radius, signal from 1977. After researchers traced the 3I Atlas arrival vector back to the origin point, it aligned within 9 degrees of the direction from which the WOW signal was received back on August 15, 1977. If you don't know what the WOW signal is, it still remains the strongest anomalous radio detection in SETI history. It was never explained, never repeated despite decades of follow-up research. We could never understand what it actually was. Loeb calculated the chance probability of this directional alignment to just 0.6%. Think about this for a moment. How small it is. For separate SETI research, researchers also conducted research using the Green Bank telescope, specifically looking for the technological signals from the 3I Atlas directed towards the Earth. However, no transmissions were detected. Here's the thing that nobody is addressing even today. Why would it broadcast towards us? Now the WOW signal was received by us, not sent by us. If something aboard the 3I Atlas transmitted once 48 years ago as it was approaching from outside the solar system, it wouldn't need to transmit again. It already knew that we were here. It already sent the ping that we received back in 1977 and just deemed it as unexplained. This object keeps coming for us, and we don't know why. The quantum AI calculation. And Google Willow's quantum chip achieved verifiable quantum knowledge in October 2025. It performed calculations 13,000 times faster than the world's fastest classical supercomputer on the same problem. It also independently verified a second quantum device. This system can model interaction across multiple variables at the same time, which is precisely the kind of compound probability problem classic computers could never do. When LOEB-22 anomalies are treated as independent statistical events and the compound probability of all of them occurring naturally in the same object is calculated at the same time, the result is a number that in any other scientific field would trigger emergency research protocols. Critics even argue that several anomalies have natural explanations, and that's a legitimate scientific objection. However, what cannot be defended is simply this. NASA declared 3I Atlas a natural comet back in August 2025. This declaration came before the James Webb isotope data, before the Hubble jet geometry images, before the nitrogen ratio paper, and even before the nickel without iron confirmation. The case was closed before most of the evidence even arrived, which is quite unacceptable at this point. The silence. The ESA's JUICE spacecraft used 5 instruments on the 3I Atlas throughout November 2025. It came back with 120 images, full spectrometry, particle data, and a complete composition guide. The spacecraft actually spent months on the far side of the Sun, sending data back at a reduced rate through its backup antennas. The full analysis of the instruments only reached February 2026, just recently. None of it has been published yet. the most complete multi-instrument observation of an interstellar object in history, and the scientific community is still working through it. That's the reality of what's happening. Weeks before the object leaves the detection range forever, this data is being processed. The AVI lobby submitted a formal white paper to the United Nations on threat assessment protocols for interstellar objects. It was acknowledged, but then nothing happened. The CIA's neither confirmed nor denied response is still in the FOIA record, unanswered and unexplained. Compared to that institutional response in November 2021, when Russia tested an anti-satellite weapon, NASA issued statements within hours. Juno is the only spacecraft near Jupiter right now. It was designed to study Jupiter's atmosphere and magnetic field, but not to conduct emergency surveillance on interstellar objects passing through the capture zones. The State Department also condemned it publicly. The UN held an emergency briefing, and the NASA administrator appeared on live television multiple times. As an interstellar object with the 22 documented anomaly is passing through Jupiter's captured zone, the agency that livestreams rocket launches and posts James Webb images within hours had complete silence on this. Why exactly is that? What do you think? Let us know in the comments down below, and if you want to stay up to date with what's happening in outer space, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon for more.